From the grand lobby of Saginaw's former post office, where history was once stamped, sorted, and sent on its way, comes a show about the people who keep the Castle Museum running like a well-oiled machine. Welcome to Postscript, the podcast that delivers the stories behind the exhibits, the laughter behind the scenes, and the passionate folks who keep this historic landmark buzzing. This week, we're back again with another exciting edition of Postscript. Today, we'll be talking with Castle Museum's CEO and President, Jon Webb. He's got a lot of interesting things to say about his past, how he got here, and also about that upcoming millage. So let's tune in and see where it goes. All right, well, welcome back to this week's edition of Postscript. And today we're talking with Jon Webb. So Jon, why don't you tell us what your role is here at the museum, your job title, and kind of what you do.
All right. Well, my official title is President and CEO. And that means I'm in charge of wrangling all you people together. And no, I mean, I'm kidding there. But honestly, I do look at that. The main focus of my job is to try to make sure that all of these super talented people that we have working for us, yourself included, are all pulling in the same direction and moving in the same direction to further our mission here at the Castle Museum. So the contrast to my last position, which was also as a museum executive director, there was a much smaller staff, and I had to do a lot of the actual exhibit design and layout and research and all that, as well as some marketing and some of the bookkeeping and all these different things like that. So it's really been a pleasant change for me, and it's been a good thing for me, I think, professionally as well, to evolve this way where it really is much more of a management situation where, again, like I have people that are formally trained in all these different areas that are really quite good at it. And now for me, I can just bring these people together, try to make sure everything is meshing. And the results have been pretty good so far. So happy.
Did you always intend to work at a museum, or what's your background?
Okay.
How'd you end up here?
Well, it's funny. Probably when I was growing up, my parents were both teachers. And so I loved the idea of teaching. I loved history. I wanted to be a history teacher, probably more along the level of like at the high school level or something along those lines. But then as I got older and it was time to go off to college and choose my major, I kind of looked back and I was like, wow, my parents, taught for 35 plus years each. And my mom ended up teaching for more than 40, and they never really made much money, And I mean, I know that sounds crass. And I think that situation has changed somewhat.
Getting
for
better.
Teachers, yeah.
Right.
But the bottom line was I was like, well, I would really like to find something where that's a little more lucrative than teaching. And so I was a business major in college, and then put that to absolutely no use. No.
Great.
Yeah.
Money well spent.
Yeah. No. So what I ended up doing was I did a ROTC while I was in college. And so when I graduated from Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio, in 1989, I then immediately went into, because I had a scholarship for that ROTC. And so then I owed the U.S. Army some time, which is fair, except then right about the time I graduated, and then I went to my officer basic course in Fort Knox, Kentucky, to learn how to be a tank platoon commander. While I was in Fort Knox, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait.
It's never good.
And suddenly everything got real,
Yeah.
It went from, hey, I was doing this to pay for my college. I mean, I am consider myself, so I shouldn't do that. I consider myself patriotic and, willing to fight for my country, certainly. And I just didn't think it was going to happen right then. And So, suddenly that training took on a whole different level of importance. And I still felt like when I graduated from my officer basic course, and they told us that they were going to send us to Kuwait and that we were going to be part of the invasion force of Iraq. I was like, man, I'm going to get people killed. I have no idea what I'm doing. And, that was a pretty sobering thing. I sold all my possessions, with the exception of my stereo, kept that. And, and off to Germany, I went to join my unit. When I arrived in Germany, found out that they were taking all the people that had been there for a while, and they were sending them to the actual theater of operations. And then those of us that had just arrived, our job was going to be to train National Guard people in tank gunnery, because the expectation was this could be, I guess at least what they were planning for, the contingency was that this could be a long, drawn-out affair, and we might have to be calling up large numbers of reserves and taking large numbers of casualties and all these things. So they wanted to make sure that all these people got trained back up. So that's what I ended up actually doing. So I did 3 years of active duty in the Army. What that taught me, in addition to how to ride around in a tank and control a platoon of people, but was that I really wanted to do something going forward that I actually had more control over. The Army is one of the biggest bureaucracies you could work for, and I love the Army and I love my time there, and I would not trade it for anything. And the U.S. military is an awesome organization, and it's a great way to learn and advance and that kind of thing. But it just wasn't for me personally. That type of environment where I don't know, just so, to try to get anything done, you had to go through all these different levels of, everything.
Sure.
So, and that is to be contrasted with my wife's parents at the time were entrepreneurs and business owners, and they were calling all their own shots every single day. And I thought, man, that is so much more appealing to me than this. And so what we decided to do was start our own business when we finished with my tour in the Army. And we got to live in Europe for 3 years. So it was an amazing experience. Traveled throughout all of Europe and still love Europe and have gone back a couple times since. But so, came back here, started our own business, borrowed some money. And that's I guess, some of that business training I did, that did come in handy there. But the reality is, like Ann's mother taught me how to do accounting. I took accounting 100 in college, right? Maybe 200. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, I didn't get it, at the time. But once you have someone who shows you how to do it on a practical term.
Yeah, until you're really doing it.
Yeah. So then that was, so we learned a lot there and started our own business. And we ran our own business for many years. And, it just so happened that we sort of chose, I guess, a part of retail that the world changed around it. So we were doing a lot of collectibles.
Okay.
And the internet and big box stores completely changed that whole market, I guess, if you will. And so after about almost 15 years of us running our own business, we decided that we kind of needed to go in a different direction. We also had 4 children and working 7 days a week, which retail requires when you have 4 kids who are now getting into the point where they're involved in sports and all these things in school, was very difficult. And we were both getting kind of burned out. So we basically said, we need to look for different things to do. And so it just so happened that we had some links with people that were in the Frankenmuth Historical Association, including their board president at that time, who was the principal at the elementary school where all of our children had gone to school, Marianne Ackerman, a wonderful lady. And I called her and said, this executive director position is open at the Frankenmuth Historical. Do you think that'd be something that would be a good fit for me? And she knew me well because I'd volunteered a lot at the school. And she's like, man, you would be perfect, I think. And so they chose me at that time because I think they were experiencing some financial difficulties, as many nonprofits do. And so I think what they were really looking for was somebody with some business background. And so, that was a really long answer to your question about
it was
history, about how I got into the museum industry, but that's how I got into it. So I kind of parlayed my business experience and being the owner of the business, you had to a certain extent executive experience. So I mean, I think we were talking like we had 7 employees at our store, things like that. But we had a couple of stores at different times, and sometimes we had multiple stores at once, and we'd done a mail order catalog and some other things. So basically, I think just parlaying that business sense is what they were really looking for at the time. So I was kind of in the right place at the right time for that organization. Spent about 10 years there, and then while I was there, served as a volunteer on the board here at the Castle Museum.
Okay.
At that time, they wanted to have at least one person who was representing the communities where the out county museums are.
Sure.
Okay. And so Morale Claremont was at one time he was on the board here, and he was the CEO at Frankenmuth Insurance. So he was kind of the Frankenmuth rep. Well, he retired and he stepped down, and he asked if I would be interested in being that person because I'm directly involved in the museum there. So I came and served for, I think, 5 years or so on the board here as a volunteer. And then when my predecessor, Ken Santa, announced his retirement, someone else on the board asked me if I would be interested in filling Ken's spot as CEO here. And I wasn't looking for a new position at that time. I really enjoyed my time in Frankenmuth. But I thought about it, and it made, again, professional sense. It was a bigger organization. It took away a lot of it changed my role from, as I was saying, like, being the kind of the everything, yes. to this. Being everything to being nothing, which is what
No, that's not true. You can do all that financial stuff, which, speaking of, because part of the idea in doing this podcast series is that people get to know us at the museum, but also how the museum runs. And I know we have a millage coming up later this year.
We do.
So how does the financial situation for a museum work in our case?
So in our case, this is kind of unique. We're very, very fortunate in Saginaw County that the voters, some nearly 40 years ago now, decided that they felt that the preservation of our history was important enough to warrant paying some taxes to make sure that happens. So our millage, which is the smallest millage of any of them that are in effect in our county, it's 0.1997 mils. That's about 75 to 80% of our revenue for the year, right? So it actually provides enough revenue that we can have a staff here of people like you and Jen, our outreach coordinator, and Tom, Trombley, our vice president and chief historian, and all these people that we have all the way down who have actually been schooled in what their job is here. We are very fortunate to have that. We are one of the, I would venture to say we're one of the few museums in the state of our size that has an archaeologist in our staff and does actual real archaeological excavations in our county. And recovered a lot of really valuable things that tell us a lot about the history, of people going back, thousands of years here. So pretty fabulous stuff. So that millage provides the funding for all of that. In addition, it provides the maintenance revenue for us to keep this building. So this building is owned by the County of Saginaw, but we are, as the inhabitants and renters of this building, our responsibility is the maintenance and upkeep of it. And we've been able to sort of do that, but it's also an incredibly old building. And every century or so, once a century, kind of needs a makeover. So that's going to be our next project down the road. After we focus on getting this millage passed and make sure that we have operational funding for the next 10 years, then our next big job is to make sure that we can take care of this building properly. And so we've sort of been doing a lot of Band-Aids in the last few years to try to get through to this next kind of spot in the road that we're at now. But it's definitely time where, we have a lot of water coming in. The roof is 100 plus years old. Well, actually about 100 years old. Slate roof, and so we're having some issues there. We have a lot of tuck pointing issues around the exterior with our limestone. So it definitely needs some work, but we intend to get that done so that we can continue to preserve this building, because this building is what we consider our most valuable artifact.
Yeah.
So it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a one-of-a-kind, incredible architectural structure. And so, we feel, I think all of us, and I've got to stop touching my microphone, sorry. All of us feel very strongly about this building and making sure that we, take care of it and continue to have it be the home of this museum for many years to come.
Absolutely. Yeah, it always makes me think, what was the federal government thinking when they built this as a post office?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it's a very European way to go about it. You see all kinds of beautiful old buildings like this in Europe that had very practical purposes, That's a very unusual thing in the United States, I think. And again, like there was only a handful of these built. And so I think they probably saw the cost. Yeah. And said, gee whiz, maybe this isn't such a great idea. But we were fortunate enough to have one of them constructed right here in Saginaw.
Yeah, and it is beautiful for sure. It's amazing. Yeah. And right next to another castle-esque building, right?
Very much so.
Library next door.
Yep.
Just kind of an unusual 2 castles in 1 block situation. But that's why all the travel people love us, because they get to see all these castles.
Yep. And both of them are very unique, different types of architecture, but each one very unique. So really neat place to visit.
So take us through like a doomsday scenario. So say this millage, for whatever reason, doesn't pass.
Okay.
What would happen to the museum, to the employees, to the artifacts?
All right, this is a sad discussion. So I thought this was going to be a really upbeat interview, and it turned into a doomsday.
Promise all good things.
I mean, we don't want to think about that, and I really hope we don't. When we passed this last, the people in Saginaw County definitely stood up and said this is important. And I think it passed 70% to 30%. 70% for, 30, only 30% against. Any election that you're going to throw out there, if you win 70 to 30, that means there's a pretty much that's a pretty uniform. You've got the support of the community. So. And I feel like since then, and I remember this, the day after that millage vote, we sat right here in this room and we said, okay, great job, everybody, good effort. We have our funding, again. But basically starting today, everything we do is to ensure that the public here in Saginaw recognizes the importance of what we're doing, so that when we get to our next millage vote in 2026, that we have the same result. And so I feel, and I feel like we've actually done a fantastic job of that. We have done so much more and new outreach within our community, whether it's through the schools or through other organizations here that we have collaborated with and worked with. I feel like we've just touched a lot of lives and families that we never were able to reach before. So I'm really proud of that, and I think we've done a wonderful job of doing that. That being said, there are things beyond our control, with the economy and things like that can change, right? People's perceptions. And so, the doomsday scenario is, if this doesn't pass, would be that number one, the building would revert back to the county for maintenance, and upkeep. So the reality is, the building's going to get paid. The maintenance of this building is going to get paid for one way or the other by the taxpayers, whether it's through this millage and us. And I believe that we would do a better job of taking care of it because we are historians and we appreciate what we have here. I think more than just a government entity would. So I think, the care for the building will be of a higher quality. But the bottom line is the taxpayers in Saginaw County are going to take care of this building one way or the other, because it is on the National Register of Historic Places. It's not going to get torn down. It's going to get maintained. It's a matter of whether we do it as the Historical Society of Saginaw County, the Castle Museum staff, or whether it happens with the county. Secondly, the 150,000 plus artifacts that we have here in our collection are going to be scattered to the wind. If we have no organization here to take care of them, then we will be unable to manage that collection anymore, and it will go away. And we have things that are absolutely priceless, literally cannot attach a value to, one-of-a-kind items from our history. And I'm talking all the way back, very old, ancient history here, Native American artifacts. We actually have an entire repository of Native American artifacts in our collection that would go away.
Yeah.
And, that stuff is not recoverable. It's not something you can fix with a, hey, let's start this organization again in 10 years. That stuff will be gone, right? To me, that's the doomsday scenario. I mean, so not only are we not providing the programming for the schools and providing the museum and the exhibits and all the different things that are telling and sharing the stories of people in Saginaw County, that's bad. But what's worse is all that collection of things that we have worked so many years to take care of and put together and assemble and maintain and catalog and make available to people. That stuff goes away. And I just think that would be a tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. In my own research, I went to a lot of presidential homes, and a lot of times after that presidential family died, they sold off all of these things in their house. And then years later it becomes a museum and they're like, we got to get some stuff back.
Too late. How
are you ever going to find that?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it'll be gone.
Yeah. So and be up in somebody else's attic and forgotten about,
or laminated, God forbid.
Let's not talk about lamination.
That's an inside joke with the collections department here. You don't laminate anything. And so many people think that they're like, I'm going to take care of this letter that grandma had. I'm going to laminate it. And it's like the worst thing you can do.
There was a period of time when lamination was like the hot thing.
Yeah. Well,
and
no pun intended, because it doesn't go through a heater.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
No, I received a bunch of objects out at the Hemlock Historical Association from the school. And you could just tell that period when like lamination must have been new because they laminated everything.
Yep.
Anything that wasn't nailed down got run through that. But no, I mean, that is the doomsday scenario. We hope it doesn't happen. We offer lots of great programming. We've talked to Jen, the outreach coordinator. We talked to Christy. She goes into all the schools, and all of that is free.
It is. It is. Yeah. And I mean, again, and just the resources that we provide, human resources that we provide here. I can start with Tom. Trombley is our vice president, chief historian. Many, many years of involvement here. Literally a walking encyclopedia of Saginaw County history. Recipient of the Historical Society of Michigan's highest honor, which is a Lifetime Achievement Award. I mean, Tom provides so many services to so many organizations and individuals in this county just through his knowledge, right? We've got Jen, who is our outreach coordinator, Jennifer Burnett, Dr. Jennifer Burnett, PhD in history, right? We've got you, right? PhD in history. I mean, we have a staff here that is incredibly talented and knowledgeable, that provides so much for our community. We have, people in the collections department who are just wonderful. Again, trained, professionally in secondary education, college, in these fields, in museum studies and in collections management, things like that. Christy with our education coordinator, certified teacher, and going out in all these schools in our community and providing all these free programs, just all the way down. And it's just we have these incredible resources here that, again, and on top of all the other things I already mentioned, it would just be an absolute tragedy to lose.
Well, let's turn away from this sadness.
Yeah.
End on a cheery note here.
Yeah.
So who do you think is the weirdest person that works at the museum?
The weirdest person?
The weirdest. I've been asking a few people this.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see if you align with anyone else.
Man, I don't even know. That's a tough one. I mean, I might be me. I don't know. Like, I mean, if you ask my wife, she'd probably say me. I mean, I wouldn't describe anybody as weird. I mean, I guess. Well, let me say that a different way. I would say we're all a little weird, and but
I think
to me,
it comes with the territory.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, weird is good. Normal is boring.
Absolutely.
So I'm all for weird, and I think the key is, can we be weird together? And so as long as we're weird together, I don't know. Doesn't really matter to me.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So how's that for a non-answer? Yeah.
That's a great political answer.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe that's my next calling as a politician. No, there's no way.
Well, you should move to the city of Saginaw and then help us out by getting involved here.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, I mean, when you talk about involvement, you're involved in a lot of different things that are really valuable within our community and our extended community, but within the county, as are, again, so many different people that are working here on our staff. There's a tremendous amount of involvement in other things on a volunteer basis, acting as officers and organizations and things that are, building up our community. And it's wonderful. There's a lot of good things happening in Saginaw, and I feel like COVID was a real speed bump here because I think you could feel that momentum picking up in the city of Saginaw. And I think the county is still doing pretty well overall. The city was doing really well, was really on a roll. COVID was a speed bump for sure, but I feel like you're starting to see that momentum build again.
Absolutely.
So that's really exciting, and there's a lot of good stuff happening on our side of the river in downtown Saginaw that's going to have a really, really positive long-term effect here. And so we're excited to be part of that, and we definitely will be a part of that going forward. And, we just hope that people in our county, and I know, we've faced inflation and grocery costs and now maybe gasoline prices up and things like that. So I understand that people may feel a pinch at times financially, right? But I think you still have to look back and say, is it important for me to make sure that the history of this community and this county and our people and all the people that have shared this county in this space previous to us, is it important that those people are remembered and those stories are remembered? Because that's what we do.
Right.
Right? So if the answer is yes, then the answer is yes. Vote yes, right, for that millage that's coming up in August. So that's my goal right now, is to just make sure that we continue to have that funding for the next decade.
Yeah,
that's my
absolutely.
focus.
I mean, I hope the community, doesn't look at other millages and cause some problems and said, "Oh, I'm not going to vote for any of that."
Right.
I mean, I think you have to pick and choose, but I think there is definite value to all of Saginaw County. This is their history.
Absolutely.
It could be lost forever, as you mentioned, if this millage doesn't pass.
Yep.
And there simply isn't another museum like ours that's going to pick that up.
There is not.
To us, right?
There is not. And I mean, again, we're talking pennies a week to support this museum. And so I really hope that folks will realize the value of that and realize what they would be losing if we were to go away. And I guess I didn't even mention, and that's terrible that I didn't mention, the millage not only supports this museum, but it also is a significant portion of the revenue and support for 4 other smaller museums in the county. And so that would be the museums in Bridgeport, Chesaning, Frankenmuth, and St. Charles. Each one of them has their own historical museum in their community. And that money from the millage is, well, for at least 3 of those 4, it is the primary source of revenue.
Sure. Almost
their entire source of revenue. Frankenmuth is a little bit more diverse. They have an endowment and some things like that help them as well. But I mean, I think they would still struggle to survive without this millage. Okay, even in Frankenmuth. The other 3 would, in my opinion, probably cease to exist. So we would be losing not only this museum and this wonderful resource of people and the collection and all that stuff, but we would be losing at least 3, if not all 4, of the smaller museums in the county as well.
Right.
See, I went right back to that doomsday.
See, you're stuck on it now.
Can't get out of it. Thanks for digging that hole. Jeez.
No, I mean, that's really important, those out-county museums. I know sometimes down here we get this idea, this is like a City of Saginaw museum. Right. It's not. It's for the whole county, right?
Absolutely. And we have definitely made that's been a focus of ours the last 10 years to make sure that our exhibits here in the museum reflect the whole county, and all people in the county, all colors, all genders, everything. We've really made a concerted effort to make sure that we are representing everybody that's in this county.
Yeah.
So that's all, it could be that whether you live in Oakley or, wherever you live, or whether you live on, 2 blocks away from the museum, like your story should be here somewhere, right?
Yeah, I agree. And, and that's why there's 150,000 artifacts.
Right.
Lots of different stories, lots of different types of lives living out in the country or in the city, the city during its heyday, or after the fact.
Right. The importance of agriculture throughout the county,
Absolutely.
huge factor. And that was, again, our focus, that we did that whole summer of exhibits, and it was all focused on the agriculture in the county.
Yep. And Centennial Farms all over the place too. So there's so much going on here.
There is. And I think we've done a really nice job of making it new so that if you're a repeat visitor to the museum, and by the way, all county residents enjoy free admission to the museum. That's our way of saying thank you for your support. And I touched my microphone again, I'm sorry. That's our way of saying thank you for your continued support through the millage, because we feel like the taxpayers in this county, this is their museum,
Absolutely.
right? And so therefore they should be able to come in to their museum whenever they want and not have to pay to get in. So your tax dollars are supporting the operation of this museum. So therefore we decided that you should come in for free. And then in order to make that something that you might want to do, we have had a pretty aggressive schedule of new exhibits throughout the museum. So I think if you come multiple times in a year, you're going to find new things every single time you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. New things and new programs and lots of things to see and do.
Yep.
You can't come just once every 10 years.
Yes.
Be like, it's the same.
Yep.
It's not. It's kind of crazy how much stuff changes around here.
It really is. And then again, I think another thing that with our outreach program has been spectacular in the last couple of years, and just the quality and the variety of speakers that we've brought in for our lunch and learn and our history after hours, and just a wonderful variety of experts in various historic fields that have come and lectured, again, free for our members, at these events. And boy, it's just been wonderful.
It's the best deal you're going to find anywhere.
Gotta love free.
There's not a lot of free things out there anymore.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, John, for chatting with us today and telling us a little bit more about the kind of internal operations of the museum.
Yep.
And hopefully you're enjoying our podcast series here, viewers out there or listeners, as it were. And we're going to get around to all the staff, even those front desk people.
Yep, that sounds wonderful.
They're hard to,
and I hope I shared a little bit with. I feel like I talked a little bit about, or probably way too much about I answered that first question and it took 15 of our 20 minutes.
No, it was great. It was very interesting.
So anyway.
Very interesting. Yeah. We are all interesting people or weird people that work here. Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
And I can appreciate that too. Yeah. So thank you for being with us here today. And we'll see you again in 2 more weeks for another new postscript.
Sounds good.